jurisdiction of VDOT, so for example, not local, town, or county roads. I would move that, I would hope that we could move the Senate amendments.
Shall the Senate amendment be adopted? The clerk shall close the roll.
Ayes 60, nays 36, abstentions 0.
Ayes 60, nays 36, abstentions 0. The Senate amendment is adopted.
House Bill 1228, a bill to amend and reenact Section 2.2 4201 of the Code of Virginia relating to the Fair Employment Contracting Act, sexual harassment policy.
The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 53, nays 43, abstentions 0.
Ayes 53, nays 43, abstentions 0. The Senate substitute is adopted.
House Bill 1259, a bill to amend and reenact Section 46.2 1222.1 of the Code of Virginia relating to regulation or prohibition of parking of certain vehicles in certain counties and towns. There is a Senate amendment.
The delegate from Middlesex, Delegate Hodges.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. House Bill 1259, when it left this body, added the town of West Point to the list of counties and towns that are permitted to regulate and the parking of watercraft, boat trailers, motorhomes, and camping trailers on the town streets. The Senate thought it was such a wonderful idea, and Frederick County wanted to be a part of this. They wanted to be added to that list, so I would hope it would be the pleasure of the body to accept the Senate amendment.
Shall the Senate amendment be adopted? The clerk shall close the roll.
Ayes 82, nays 14, abstentions 0.
Ayes 82, nays 14, abstentions 0. The Senate amendments are adopted.
Page 45, House Bill 1333, a bill to amend and reenact Sections 55.1 1204 and other sections of the Code of Virginia relating to landlord and tenant, damage insurance in lieu of security deposit. There is a Senate substitute.
The delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Keene.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that we accept the Senate amendment in the nature of a substitute, and I'd speak to that motion.
Delegate Keene, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is a bill that some of you might recall would create in Virginia an opportunity for landlords to offer a new insurance product as in lieu of accepting cash as a security deposit. And the amendments from the Senate were my request on behalf of the insurance industry as we've been crafting this legislation, which is the first time that we're addressing this in Virginia. We want to make sure that the language is as clear as possible to allow the insurance companies to make this product available in Virginia. So with this bill, and the passage of this, I'm hoping that by next year or so we'll see a robust new industry of insurance products being offered so that both tenants and landlords can take advantage of this opportunity. With that, I'd ask that we move to accept the Senate amendment.
Shall the Senate substitute be adopted? The clerk shall close the roll.
Ayes 85, nays 9, abstentions 1.
Ayes 85, nays 9, abstentions 1. The Senate substitute is adopted.
House Bill 1354, a bill to amend the Code of Virginia by adding in Chapter 26 of Title 2.2 and Article numbered 36, consisting of sections numbered 2.2, 2699.8, and other sections relating to Plastic Waste Prevention Advisory Council. There are Senate amendments.
The delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Plum.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Senate amendment asks that the Plastic Waste Prevention Advisory Council that is formed by this bill to take a look at what we might do in the long run dealing with plastic bags and polystyrene. Hopefully it will be the pleasure of the House to agree to the amendment.
Shall the Senate amendment be adopted? The clerk shall close the roll.
Ayes 57, nays 40, abstentions 0.
Ayes 57, nays 40, abstentions 0. The Senate amendment is adopted.
Page 46, House Bill 1406, A bill to establish the Commission for Historical Statues in the United States Capitol to provide for the replacement of the Robert E. Lee statue in the National Statuary Hall collection at the United States Capitol, to recommend to the General Assembly as a replacement a statue of a prominent Virginia citizen of historic renown or renowned for distinguished civil or military service to be commemorated in the National Statuary Hall collection, and to provide for the selection of a sculptor for the new statue, and to provide for submission of the Commonwealth's request to the Joint Committee of Congress on the Library for approval to replace the Robert E. Lee statue in the National Statuary Hall collection at the United States Capitol. There is a Senate substitute.
The delegate from Hampton, Delegate Ward.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Madam Clerk, for that explanation. So what I will say about the substitute, when I went to really read it, and I thought there might be a paragraph or something that I could just easily agree or reject, it's a whole rewrite of the bill. It's like 2 or 3 pages. So I'm going to ask that you reject this Senate substitute, let it join its Senate cousin that is already in conference. So reject the Senate substitute. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Shall the Senate substitute be adopted? The clerk shall close the roll.
Ayes 0, nays 96, abstentions 0.
Ayes 0, nays 96, abstentions 0. The Senate substitute is rejected.
House Bill 1419, a bill to amend and reenact Section 9.1-102 of the Code of Virginia relating to school resource officers and school security officers training standards. There is a Senate amendment.
The delegate from Norfolk, Delegate Jones.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Senate amendment simply adds the phrase "such as a physical alternative to restraint." This conforms to Senator Locke's training standards bill for school resource officers and school security officers. I hope that we will adopt the Senate amendment.
Shall the Senate amendments be adopted? The clerk shall close the roll.
Ayes 95, nays 0, abstentions 0.
Ayes 95, nays 0, abstentions 0. The Senate amendment is adopted.
House Bill 1424, a bill to amend the Code of Virginia by adding in Chapter 25 of Title 2.2 an article numbered 11, consisting of sections numbered 2.22544 through 2.22549, relating to the Virginia Revolutionary 250 Commission report.
The delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Krizek.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. HB 1424 is the same as SB 407, which is now in conference, and we're working on a compromise, and so I would ask you to reject the substitute.
Shall the Senate substitute be adopted? The clerk shall close the roll.
Ayes 0, nays 94, abstentions 1.
Ayes 0, nays 94, abstentions 1. The Senate substitute is rejected.
Page 47, House Bill 1524, a bill to amend and reenact Sections 18.2, 346, and other sections of the Code of Virginia relating to prostitution, touching the intimate parts of another, penalty. There is a Senate substitute.
The delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Delaney.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move the Senate substitute and ask that we accept the Senate substitute.
Delegate
Madam
Delaney.
Speaker. Sorry.
Delegate from Shenandoah, Delegate Gilbert.
You may have been, Madam Speaker, would the delegate yield for a question?
The delegate yields. Would the Speaker prefer that I explain the substitute?
Yes,
and then if the delegate still has
from
a question,
Fairfax
I'll
could
be happy
continue.
to
That was my
do
question. Thank you, Madam
best,
Speaker.
to explain
Delegate
it.
Delaney, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So the Senate and the Crime Commission have offered a substitute as a compromise. It limits the scope of how we've defined intimate parts in this bill to ensure that we're only capturing in this language those that we intend to, and that in this case is the illicit massage industry where trafficking victims are often exploited in Virginia.
Shall the Senate substitute be adopted? The clerk shall close the roll.
Ayes 91, nays 5, abstentions 0.
Ayes 91, nays 5, abstentions 0. The Senate substitute is adopted.
House Bill 1548, a bill to amend and reenact Sections 55.1, 1937 and 55.1, 1941 of the Code of Virginia relating to common interest communities, Virginia Condominium Act, termination of condominium, respective interests of unit owners. There is a Senate substitute.
The delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Simon.
Madam Speaker, members of the House, the last bill that I had before you, I said that if you didn't like the bill before, you still wouldn't like it. This bill is fairly non-controversial. It's actually all the stakeholders involved are happy with the way it came out, and yet it still only got out of this House 81 to 18. So I would suggest with this bill, if you voted against it before, you probably still don't like me, and that's okay. You don't need to vote for the bill anymore. That being said, Madam Speaker, the Senate amendments are mostly technical in nature. We had a couple different condo attorneys doing battle over how it should look and what it should say. At the end of the day, they sat down at a table together, and this is the language they came up with. This is a consensus of the practitioners in this area, and I hope it will be the pleasure of the body to accept the Senate substitute.
Shall the Senate substitute be adopted? See, you have a lot of friends, Delegate Simon. Clerk shall close the roll.
Ayes 76, nays 21, abstentions 0.
Ayes 76, nays 21, abstentions 0. The Senate amendment is adopted.
House Bill 1654, a bill to amend and reenact Sections 54.1, 3304.1, and 54.1, 3467 of the Code of Virginia relating to Schedule 6 controlled substances, hypodermic syringes, and needles, limited use license. There is a Senate amendment.
The delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Helmer.
Madam Speaker, the Senate amendments put this in the same posture as Senate Bill 1074, which passed this body 99 to 1. This bill had previously passed 100 to 0 from this body. They're good amendments. We're in agreement. I urge the body to pass the Senate amendments.
Shall the Senate amendment be adopted? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 96, nays 1, abstentions 0.
Ayes 96, nays 1, abstention 0. The Senate amendment is adopted.
House Bill 1666, a bill to amend the Code of Virginia by adding a section numbered 46.2, 600.1 relating to voluntary registry for people with special communication needs, vehicle registration. There are Senate amendments.
The delegate from Chesapeake, Delegate Hayes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, House Bill 1666 with Senate amendments simply recommends that we add to the impairment of those autism drivers also those with hearing impairment. Instead of impairment, they just use the word hearing loss. I recommend that we pass the bill.
Shall the Senate amendment be adopted? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 97, nays 0, abstentions 0.
Ayes 97, nays 0, abstentions 0. The Senate amendment is adopted.
Page 48, House Bill 1705, a bill to amend and reenact Section 46.2, 924 of the Code of Virginia relating to yielding the right-of-way to pedestrians, stopping. There is a Senate substitute.
The delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Corey.
Madam Speaker.
I'm sorry, the delegate from Roanoke City, Delegate.
This bill go by temporarily.
All those in favor of HB 1705 going by temporarily shall say aye. Those opposed, HB 1705 goes by temporarily.
Returning to page 42 of the calendar, House Bill 1056, which went by temporarily. A bill to amend the Code of Virginia by adding in Title 30 a chapter numbered 60 consisting of sections numbered 30, 376 through 30, 383 relating to Commission on Wellness and Opportunity report. There are Senate amendments.
The delegate from Richmond City, Delegate Adams.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the members of the body who have corrected the error of my ways. I certainly hope that you all will reject this horrible, horrible amendment.
Shall the Senate amendments be adopted? The clerk shall close the roll.
Ayes 0, nays 97, abstentions 0.
Ayes 0, nays 97, abstentions 0. The Senate amendments are strongly rejected.
Returning to page 48 of the calendar, House Bill 1705. A bill to amend and reenact Section 46.2, 924 of the Code of Virginia relating to yielding the right-of-way to pedestrians, stopping. There is a Senate substitute.
The delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Corey.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would, let's see, the Senate substitute changes the bill in ways that are not congruent with the original bill that we passed. So I would ask us to reject the Senate substitute.
Shall the Senate substitute be adopted? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 0, nays 97, abstentions 0.
Ayes 0, nays 97, abstentions 0. The Senate substitute is adopted. Is rejected.
House Joint Resolutions with Senate Amendment. Page 48. House Joint Resolution 29, establishing a joint committee of the House Committee on Health, Welfare, and Institutions, the House Committee on Public Safety, the Senate Committee on the Judiciary, and the Senate Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services to study staffing levels, employment conditions, and compensation at the Virginia Department of Corrections. Reported from Rules with Substitute and reported from Appropriations, and there are Senate amendments.
The delegate from Sussex County, Delegate Tyler.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to adopt the Senate amendments.
Delegate Tyler.
And the amendments are that they increase the membership to 12 and also added 2 members from the on one of the safety committees, and also made the money increase from $14,200 to $19,840. So I ask the body to accept the amendments.
Shall the Senate amendments be adopted? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 92, nays 1, abstentions 0.
Ayes 92, nays 1, abstentions 0. The Senate amendment is adopted.
Page 49, House Joint Resolution 100, establishing a schedule for the conduct of business for the pre-filing period of the 2021 regular session of the General Assembly of Virginia. There is a Senate amendment.
The delegate from Alexandria, Delegate Herring.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Senate amendment, I think the Senate was trying to do a bill limit, but the way that they drafted it was they say that we cannot submit more than 30 requests to DLS. It's vague that we don't know if that means including edits or redrafts, so I would suggest that we reject the Senate amendment.
Shall the Senate amendment be adopted? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 2, nays 92, abstentions 0.
Ayes 2, nays 92, abstentions 0. Senate amendment is rejected.
House Joint Resolution 130, directing the Joint Legislative Audit and Review Commission to study options for the regulation of adult use of cannabis and medical cannabis. Report. There is a Senate substitute.
The delegate from Portsmouth, Delegate Heretic.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I hope it would be the pleasure of the House to accept the Senate substitute. It simply enlarges the scope of the study to be undertaken by JLARC and advances the time frame in which it to be completed. Once again, I would ask the House to approve or adopt the substitute.
Shall the Senate substitute be adopted? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 72, nays 24, abstentions 0.
Ayes 72, nays 24, abstentions 0. The Senate substitute is adopted.
Resolutions on uncontested calendar. Page 50, Senate Joint Resolution 15, requesting the Department of Education to study the teacher licensure process and the assessment requirements therein for any inherent biases that may prevent minority teacher candidates from entering the profession. Report. Reported from Rules with Amendment and reported from Appropriations.
Madam Speaker, can this bill go by temporarily?
All those in favor of SJ 15 going by temporarily shall say aye. Those opposed, SJ 15 goes by temporarily.
Page 51, Senate Joint Resolution 50, requesting the Department of Rail and Public Transportation to study the feasibility of an east-west Commonwealth Corridor passenger rail service. Report. Reported from Rules with Amendment and reported from Appropriations.
Delegate from Roanoke City, Delegate Rasool.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First, I'd like to move the committee amendment.
Shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All those in favor, say aye. All those opposed, the committee amendment is agreed to. Delegate Rasool.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, Senate Joint Resolution 50 is the same as my House Joint Resolution 55, which has a DRPT studying feasibility of having an east-west service across the state for passenger rail service. I hope it be the pleasure of the body to pass the resolution.
Returning to page 50 of the calendar, Senate Joint Resolution 15.
The delegate from Newport News, Delegate Mullen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I was coughing myself to death a moment ago. I apologize. So Senate Joint Resolution 15, first I'd move the committee amendments.
Shall the committee amendments be agreed to? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, the committee amendments are agreed to. Delegate Mullen.
Senate Joint Resolution 15 directs the Department of Education to be able to explore a more diverse and larger school licensure process, and I would hope it would be the present. I hope we would pass the bill.
Delegate
Resolution.
From Powhatan, Delegate Ware.
Madam Speaker, I have a parliamentary inquiry.
Delegate Ware, you have the floor.
I'm not sure exactly. I intend to vote for the resolution, but I'm looking down through what's online, and it says that the Senate read it a third time and agreed to it by a voice vote. I don't know that I've ever seen that. I don't know if that's an enrolling room circumstance.
The House will be at ease.
Readings on resolutions.
There's no real explanation for why the other body does what the other body does. Shall the resolutions be agreed to? The clerk shall destroy the vote. The roll. We'll do it again. Shall the resolutions be agreed to? The clerk shall close the roll.
Ayes 90, nays 2, abstentions 0.
Ayes 90, nays 2, abstentions 0. The resolutions are agreed to.
Resolutions on regular calendar, page 51. Senate Joint Resolution 27, continuing the Joint Subcommittee on Coastal Flooding report, reported from Rules and reported from Appropriations.
The delegate from Newport News, Delegate Mullen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the clerk perfectly described this resolution, and I would ask that it pass.
Shall the resolution be agreed to? The clerk shall close the roll.
Ayes 92, nays 2, abstentions 0.
Ayes 92, nays 2, abstention 0. The resolution is agreed to.
Page 52, Senate Joint Resolution 38, directing the Joint Commission on Technology and Science to study the safety, quality of life, and the economic consequences of weather and climate-related events on coastal areas in Virginia. Reported from Appropriations with amendment.
The delegate from Newport News, Delegate Mullen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would move the amendment.
Shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, the committee amendment is agreed to. Delegate Mullen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The clerk has perfectly described this Joint Commission on Technology and Science study, and I would ask that it pass.
Shall the resolution be agreed to? The clerk shall close the roll.
Ayes 92, nays 4, abstentions 0.
Ayes 92, nays 4, abstentions 0. The resolution is agreed to.
Senate Joint Resolution 110, confirming appointments by the governor of certain positions communicated to the General Assembly February 3, 2020, reported from Privileges and Elections.
The delegate from Norfolk, Delegate Lindsay.
Madam Speaker, SJ 110 focuses on certain appointments that have been offered to various boards by the governor, including among them the Commerce and Trade, the Commonwealth Virginia African American Advisory Board, Education, and the Board of Psychology. I move the passage of the resolution.
Shall the resolution be agreed to? The clerk shall close the roll.
Ayes 96, nays 0, abstentions 0.
Ayes 96, nays 0, abstention 0. The resolution is agreed to.
Memorial resolutions. Memorial resolutions to be considered in block are found on pages 52 and 53 of the printed calendar.
Madam Speaker.
Delegate from Newport News, Delegate Price.
Yes, Madam Speaker, may House Joint Resolution 478 and House Resolution 174 on page 52 and House Resolution 175 on page 53 go by until Friday? It is all of our memorial resolutions for the day.
Okay, all those in favor of HJR 478, HR 174, HR 175 on page 53 shall go by until Friday. All those in favor say aye.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Parliamentary inquiry.
Delegate
One
Simon.
of those is a joint resolution. Will that leave enough time for us to get it over to the Senate so that they can do their part of it if it originated in the House?
The House will be at ease. I believe there will be ample time for us to do that. Delegate Price moves that HJR 478, HR 174, HR 175 on page 53 go by until Friday. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, those bills will go by until Friday.
Commending resolutions. The resolutions to be adopted in block, with the exception of House Resolution 151 and House Joint Resolutions 335, 441, and 459, are listed on pages 53 through 55 of the calendar.
Delegate from Newport News, Delegate Price.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I do apologize for not being timely with this, but may House Resolution 171, 172, and 173 on page 55 go by for the purposes of adding some patrons to it. Go by for the day.
All those in favor of H.R. 171, 172, 173 on page 55 go by for the day. All those in favor, say aye. All those opposed, they'll go by for the day. Okay. Does any member desire to remove additional resolutions from the block? Hearing none, those in favor of adopting all the commending resolutions laid on the Speaker's table with the exceptions of H.R. 151, H.J.R. 335, 441, 459, found on pages 53 to 55, will say aye. Those opposed, the resolutions are agreed to.
House bills with governor's recommendations. Page 55, House Bill 115, an act to amend and reenact sections 8.01, 581.16, and other sections of the Code of Virginia, and to repeal section 54.1, 2923.1, programs to address career fatigue in certain healthcare providers, civil immunity. There is an emergency clause. Reported from Health, Welfare, and Institutions.
The delegate from Arlington, Delegate Hope.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm going to ask you to accept the amendments from the governor. You can see what the amendment made. This originally came from Legislative Services that we were able to catch on the companion bill, which was Senate Bill 120, Senator Barker's bill that we passed here on 95-0. So I would ask you, it's consistent with that, so those bills now are the same upon acceptance, so I'd ask you to accept the governor's amendment.
Shall the governor's recommendations be agreed to? The clerk shall close the roll.
Ayes 94, nays 0, abstentions 0.
Ayes 94, nays 0, abstention 0. The governor's recommendations are agreed to.
Page 56, House Bill 256, an act to amend and reenact Section 18.2, 415 of the Code of Virginia relating to disorderly conduct, students. There are governor amendments.
The delegate from Newport News, Delegate Mullen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the amendments coming from the governor are largely technical in nature and clarifying that this disorderly conduct only applies in school activities, on school property, for students, on a school bus, or as part of a school activity. I would ask that we accept the governor's amendments.
Shall the governor's recommendations be agreed to? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 57, nays 37, abstentions 0.
Ayes 57, nays 37, abstention 0. The governor's recommendations are agreed to.
House Bill 1342, an act to amend and reenact Section 55.1703 of the Code of Virginia and to repeal Section 55.1705 relating to Virginia Property Disclosure Act, required disclosures for buyer to beware, lead pipe, defective drywall.
The delegate from Virginia Beach, Delegate Askew.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The governor's recommendations are mainly technical in nature. They changed the definition of lead-free in the U.S. Code from concerning educational agencies to residential. I ask that the body accept the governor's recommendations.
Shall the governor's recommendations be agreed to? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 94, nays 1, abstention 0.
Ayes 94, nays 1, abstention 0. The governor's recommendations are agreed to.
Madam Speaker.
The delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Simon.
Madam Speaker, for a motion.
Delegate Simon, you have the floor.
Madam Speaker, having voted on the prevailing side by which we accept the Senate amendments to House Joint Resolution 29 on page 48 of the calendar, I move that we reconsider that motion. I'd like to speak to the motion for a second.
Delegate Simon.
So, Madam Speaker, members of the House, upon closer inspection and looking at the what the amendments did, they actually added a second member of the Senate to go along with the 2 members appointed by the Speaker of the House of Delegates. And so they tried to sneak another one past us to equalize the membership on this commission. And so I would move that we reconsider that, the vote by which we accepted it, and then I think we'll have a follow-up motion to reject those and get this into conference so we can fix the proportions on that committee.
Delegate Simon moves that we reconsider HJR 29 on page 48. All those in favor shall say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, HJR 29 will be reconsidered. Delegate Simon.
Madam Speaker, members of the House, I've spoken with the patron of the joint resolution, Delegate Tyler, and I think that what we'd like to do at this point is to go ahead and reject these amendments, get this into conference so we can get the numbers equalized.
All those,
Excuse me, getting de-equalized, right, and corrected so that they're the proper proportions, with the House having more representatives than the Senate.
shall the substitute, shall the Senate amendments be adopted? The clerk shall close the roll.
Ayes 1, nays 92, abstentions 0.
Ayes 1, nays 92, abstentions 0. The Senate amendments are rejected.
Conference reports received. On page 58 of the calendar, House Bill 33. The conference reports before you. This is page 58, House Bill 33.
Got to wake up first.
The clerk shall continue with the calendar.
Conference report for House, on page 58, conference report for House Bill 33.
The delegate from Norfolk, Delegate Lindsay.
Madam Speaker, HB 33, as it relates to the conference report, we took issue with the fact that the Senate actually took the bill and conformed it to the one that they had in their House. The issue here was that we had made amendments to the bill. This is an administration bill. This is the Fishback bill as it relates to parole eligibility for persons who had not been before courts that allowed the jurors to know that these people would not be subject to parole. What happened thereafter is that with the conformance of the bills, we went back and forth. The Senate took the position that they would not relent on their position. I acquiesced. So the difference being that the amendment that we offered in the House that would have excluded persons in a limited category who had involved in certain sexual offenses against minors was not taken out of the bill. Move the acceptance of the conference report.
Delegate from Albemarle, Delegate Bell.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to move to the motion. I'd like to speak to the motion.
Delegate Bell.
All right, so unfortunately the topic we're about to talk about is not as funny or amusing as some of the things we've talked about before. This is the issue that came up previous in session, and there's a group of defendants for whom this bill would grant eligibility for parole. By the statistics, it's about 25 people that are covered by the amendment the House accepted previous that the Senate has now stripped out. And I want to make sure we understand who those people are. When we talk about crime statistics, it always seems so vague and statistical. I want to talk about my work prior to getting here. So people always ask, Orange County, how could it possibly have crime enough to have even 2 prosecutors? What did you do? We had one homicide case during those 5 years. It was actually a leftover case from before I got there. We had a couple of DUI manslaughters, but by far the bread and butter that we worked on were sex crimes against children. And the stats, so those of you not in the system, are just shocking. For the last decade in Virginia, for the years we have records, two-thirds of forcible sodomy convictions were committed against children aged 12 and under. A fifth, 21%, were committed against children aged 6 and under. For object penetration, it's 43% against kids 12 and under, 22%, 1 in 5 under 6 and under. And one of these people that will be covered by this 25 that you're about to make eligible parole was one of them. Now, I don't want to talk about real names. I don't want anybody to look her up. But the victim was a girl that I'll call Christy. She was 7. She lived in Orange County. Her mother moved in with a man. His name is not Chester, but that's the name I'll use. And the evidence in the case was that Christy considered Chester to be her stepfather. Lived in the house, had dinner with the family, drove her around to things. But Chester was a pedophile. Beginning when Christy was 7, he would find times when Christy's mom wasn't at home, after school, weekends when mom was shopping, and he'd come to her room. Now, the law has a very clinical term for what happened next. It was, quote, object sexual penetration of a minor. There are other vulgar terms that people use. I think most people in this room, most decent people, would call it rape, forcible sodomy. But Chester did this to a 7-year-old girl that was a stepdaughter. And he didn't just do it once. He did it again, and again, and again, and again. That was 5 times. If he'd done it only 5 times, this would be an unimaginable crime, a crime so vile they can't even put it on TV on those crime shows people watch. It's a betrayal of basic trust. It's physical torture. It is literally victimizing a 7-year-old. He didn't stop after 5 times. He did it again and again and again and again and again. That's 10. Evidence was Christy would come home from school. She was thinking, she was hoping, she was praying that her mom would come home in time to interrupt this, hoping this time Chester would be too drunk or high or stupid or something not to come to her room, hoping somebody, anybody would step in and make it stop. It kept happening. She said it happened a couple times a week. All right? So we're up to 10. Again and again and again and again and again. That makes 15. Somewhere there, she had her 8th birthday. He kept molesting her. He did it again and again and again and again and again. And I'm probably boring you with all these agains. That was 20 times. He was convicted of 20 counts of object sexual penetration of a minor, 20 rapes that covered more than a year and a half. For what it's worth, the evidence was compelling that he did it a lot more times than that. Now, in addition to the emotional damage of being repeatedly raped by her stepdad, the physical damage to a 7-year-old is unspeakable. We use that term here casually, unspeakable. No, I mean literally unspeakable, like no common decent person should ever see it or speak about it. A 7-year-old's body is not designed, it's not capable of being violated by an adult man over and over, month after month, without significant injury. We had photos of her body that we showed to the jury. She didn't die, but we had the photos. I imagine they'll remember those photos until they die. I know I will. Now, to prosecute Chester, Christie had to testify twice. Once in the preliminary hearing, then again at the trial. She had to describe, using children's words for her various body parts, what Chester had done to her, where he had done it, how he had done it. We had medical testimony about the parts of her body that didn't work right anymore. And so the jury ultimately convicted him of 20 counts. He had additional counts in Spotsylvania, and with these additional convictions, he received a total sentence combined of 118 years. And so finally, because this was years after it happened, at age 10, Christie thought she was finally done with Chester. And she was told by our office that he was going to be put somewhere he could never, ever hurt somebody again. And Christie was allowed to go on with her life. Now, I have no idea what happened to her, where she is, what she calls herself, what her last name is at this point. But she'd been in her late 20s, and I hope she's been successful. I hope she's put it behind her. I hope she's received the medical care she needed. I hope she's maybe somehow put all this behind her, started a family, and put this lamentable, unspeakable, awful sequence behind her. Until today. Now, I spoke previously about what's going to happen if this bill passes. If this bill passes with this amendment, she and 25 other victims are going to get a phone call saying that thing that you put behind you forever is now something back part of your life. Because he's going to get a parole hearing every 3 years for the rest of your life. Even if they don't let him out, you're going to have to go back every 3 years and relive this sequence. Go dig up those pictures. Tell them about your body parts and whether they've healed or not, just so that he will stay in prison. So, with more specificity than before, I would hope that this body would say, that's too much. We asked too much. She was 7 when it happened. She should be able to put it behind her and not be expected and required to come back time and time again to make a parole board understand what happened to her. She did that once. She did it a second time. So, ladies and gentlemen, the bill as it came out of the House exempted people like her. That was done at my request, but with the support of the gentleman from Norfolk. We appreciated it then. I appreciate it now. I hope that we'll reject the Senate effort to force this again, the conference report, go back to conference, tell them we mean it, and just keep people like her from having to go through this. Thank you.
The delegate from Norfolk, Delegate Lindsay.
Madam Speaker, I'm the first to say that the story as recited by Delegate Bell is very much a traumatic one, and it's unfortunate for anyone ever in life to have to endure anything of that sort. But that's not this bill. The bill isn't about excusing courses of conduct. I would hope and expect that for everything that he mentioned, the courts, be they the jurors or be they the judges, made a determination as to what was the appropriate period of incarceration. Something that was also perhaps not spoken to any real degree is that when we're talking about this bill, there were a group of people who just were not afforded the knowledge. The jurors were not afforded the knowledge to know that parole was no longer the case in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So the expectation or concern was that the dispositions were something different than what otherwise may have been the case were they to have known. Now, that's the sum and substance of this bill. What the delegate is talking about is the propriety of the punishment, which is separate and apart. And I'll say to you, what a lot of people don't understand, and many criminal lawyers and even prosecutors don't understand, is even in a situation of a person akin to what has been described in the scenario as offered by Delegate Bell, even if they were afforded parole at some point in time in the future, that would not necessarily bring about their ultimate release. Because what would happen is those persons would be categorized as sexual violent predators. And when they left whatever criminal incarceration that they had imposed, they then would be taken into custody, immediately into custody. There would be hearings in the circuit court with a determination made as to whether or not the doctors believed them to be a continuing danger to members of society. And I can tell you that in the last 20 years, almost everyone that I know about that has ever been in the category of a sexual violent predator in the terms of the criminal incarceration gets ensnarled into the civil, and those people, some of them, stay in that, I was going to say captivity, but stay in that detention with counseling and therapy and the like for many, many years to come there afterwards. I would be the first to tell you, as a father, as a grandfather, all of girls, well, I do have a son, but I mean, having a daughter and 2 granddaughters, that what he talks about pulls at my personal heartstring. And it was one of the reasons why I made the concession that I thought would be acceptable to the Senate. But I'll also say to you that this isn't about release, and anyone who would suggest that this is about release is being less than fully transparent with the facts. This is about a process where there's opportunity for a review, and then with that review, there are the good stakeholders that we put in place in the probation and parole board that makes a determination as to whether someone is sufficiently rehabilitated for release. And quite frankly, most in this category are not and do not make that category. So thank you, Madam Speaker.
Shall the conference report be agreed to?
Madam Speaker.
Delegate from Roanoke City, Delegate Rasool.
Parliamentary inquiry.
Delegate Rasool, you have the floor.
Madam Speaker, is it not the case?
Clerk shall destroy the roll.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So just to clarify what we're voting on, we are voting on a conference report which has been agreed by conferees, not on Senate amendments to a House bill. Would that be the case, Madam Speaker?
Does he want us to?
To answer the delegate from Roanoke City's question, the answer is yes. This is Senate amendment in the nature of a substitute. Be accepted.
Thank you, Madam
Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
Delegate from Shenandoah, Delegate Gilbert.
Parliamentary inquiry.
Delegate Gilbert, you have the floor.
If the conference report is accepted by the body, does that in fact represent final passage?
Yes, it does.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Delegate from Alexandria,
I rise
Delegate
to a
Herring.
motion.
Delegate Herring.
I ask that this conference report go by for the day.
All those in favor of HB 33 going by for the day shall say aye. Aye. Those opposed, HB 33 will go by for the day.
Page 59, House Bill 220, a bill to amend and reenact Section 24.2706 as it is currently effective and as it shall become effective of the Code of Virginia relating to absentee voting, postage prepaid on return envelope.
The delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Krizik.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that we accept the conference report, which is basically total capitulation on my part to the Senate's reenactment clause.
Shall the conference report be agreed to? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 58, nays 33, abstentions 0.
Ayes 58, nays 33, abstention 0. The conference report is agreed to.
House Bill 259, a bill to amend and reenact Sections 18.2, 308.1:3, and other section of the Code of Virginia relating to unrestorably incompetent defendant competency report.
The delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Simon.
Madam Speaker, members of the House, the conference report here was that the Senate actually acceded to the House position on this bill. They've withdrawn their amendments. This bill, I think, passed nearly unanimously out of the House, and so, again, I hope that you'll accept the conference report, which adopts the House position on this bill.
Shall the conference report be agreed to? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 92, nays 1, abstentions 0.
Ayes 92, nays 1, abstention 0. The conference report is agreed to.
Page 61, House Bill 330, a bill to amend the Code of Virginia by adding in Article 1 of Chapter 3 of Title 40.1, a section numbered 40.1, 28.7:7 relating to covenants not to compete low-wage employees civil penalty.
The delegate from Enrico, Delegate Van Valkenburg.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, members of the body, this is the same bill that we voted on before to ban non-compete clauses for low-wage workers with two exceptions. One is it tightens up the language around trade secrets, and it adds a section that allows a plaintiff to recover reasonable costs, including costs and reasonable fees for expert witnesses and attorney fees from the former employer if they try to enforce a covenant not to compete. So I hope it is the will of the body to pass this bill.
Shall the conference report be agreed to?
Report.
The clerk shall close the roll.
Ayes 86, nays 6, abstentions 0.
Ayes 86, nays 6, abstention 0. The conference report is agreed to.
Page 65, House Bill...
Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker?
Yes, Delegate Wilt.
Madam Speaker, having voted on the prevailing side by which we passed the conference report on House Bill 220, I ask that we reconsider that vote. I'm sorry, 259. Page 59.
Delegate Wilt moves that we reconsider the vote we took on HB 255? 259 on page 59.
That's correct.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Delegate Wilt. Okay. So,
yes, Madam Speaker,
Delegate.
I move that we accept the conference report.
Shall the conference report be agreed to? The clerk shall close the roll.
Ayes 95, nays 0, abstentions 0.
Ayes 95, nays 0, abstentions 0. The conference report is agreed to. Delegate from Norfolk, Delegate Jones. Oh, okay. The clerk shall continue with the calendar.
Page 65, House Bill 752.
The delegate from Norfolk, Delegate Jones.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members of the House, this conference report conforms my House Bill 752 to Senator Stanley's Senate Bill 312 that passed this House 100-0 a couple of weeks back. It clarifies that offenders who are convicted of knowingly failing to register or re-register with or knowingly providing materially false information to the sex offender registry are subject to added terms of post-release incarceration. This is cleaning up language across the code to make it consistent, and is a recommendation of the Judicial Council. I would move to adopt the report.
Shall the conference report be agreed to? The clerk shall close the roll.
Ayes 94, nays 0, abstentions 0.
Ayes 94, nays 0, abstention 0. The conference report is agreed to. The House will be at ease. The clerk will please continue with the calendar. The House will come to order. The clerk will please continue with the calendar.
Page 67, House Bill 870.
The delegate from Richmond City, Delegate Bourne.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Speaking of the conference report.
Delegate Bourne, you have the floor.
Madam Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House, House Bill 870 seeks to remove an arbitrary distinction between those sexual abuse statute of limitation between when it's a minor and incapacitated person and an adult. The Senate amended it down to 5 years. They got the language a little bit wrong, so the conference report sets it at 10 years and gets the language right so that we're not messing with the 20 years for juveniles or incapacitated persons. I'd hope it be the will of the body to adopt the conference report.
Shall the conference report be agreed to? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 93, nays 1, abstentions 0.
Ayes 93, nays 1, abstention 0. The conference report is agreed to.
Page 70, House Bill 913.
The delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Helmer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Speaking to the conference report.
Delegate Helmer, you have the floor.
Madam Speaker, the conference report has language that will be very familiar to the body from yesterday because we added an amendment to a Senate bill related to VMI that provides for limited immunity for reporting instances of sexual violence when a student in an institute of higher education had consumed alcohol or personal consumption of alcohol or drugs. What the conference report does is it exempts the Virginia Military Institute because there's some complexities there, and we have dealt with VMI through a different vehicle and an amendment, and through the amendment that we put on a bill yesterday. So I hope it is the will of this body to accept this conference report.
Shall the conference report be agreed to? The clerk shall close the roll.
Ayes 92, nays 2, abstentions 0.
Ayes 92, nays 2, abstention 0. The conference report is agreed to.
Page 74, House Bill 1269.
The delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Helmer.
Madam Speaker, speaking to the conference report.
Delegate Helmer, you have the floor.
Madam Speaker and members of the House, what this bill does is makes some technical changes to the way in which the Veterans Service Foundation operates. The conference report just takes the House version of the bill.
Shall the conference report be agreed to? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 95, nays 0, abstentions 0.
Ayes 95, nays 0, abstention 0. The conference report is agreed to.
Page 74, House Bill 1318.
The delegate from Petersburg, Delegate Aird.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Speaking to the conference report.
Delegate Aird, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this conference report just moves the bill back to its engrossed version, which was extending the sunset from 2025 to 2027, or back to 2027 after the Senate messed with it a little bit. So I hope it will be the pleasure of the body to move the conference report forward.
Shall the conference report be agreed to? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 67, nays 26, abstentions 0.
Ayes 67, nays 26, abstention 0. The conference report is agreed to.
Page 83 of the calendar, Senate Bill 263.
The delegate from Arlington, Delegate Lopez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Speaking of the bill.
Delegate Lopez, you have the floor.
Madam Speaker, this conference report conforms Senate Bill SB 263 with my bill HB 264, which was passed on February 19th. It removes the option for concealed handgun permit applications to demonstrate applicants to demonstrate competence with a handgun by completing an electronic video or online course, and mandates the competence with a handgun be demonstrated in person. I move that we accept the conference report.
Shall the conference report be agreed to? The clerk shall close the roll.
Ayes 52, nays 42, abstentions 0.
Ayes 52, nays 42, abstentions 0. The conference report is agreed to.
Page 86, Senate Bill 480.
The delegate from Enrico, Delegate Van Valkenburg.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, members of the body, this is the same bill that we just voted on 2 minutes ago, the Senate version, so I hope you will accept the conference report.
Shall the conference report be agreed to? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 74, nays 20, abstentions 0.
Ayes 74, nays 20, abstention 0. The conference report is agreed to.
Page 87, Senate Bill 481.
The delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Simon.
Madam Speaker, members of the body, we thought we had a deal. We were all ready to go on this bill, and on the Senate side, it seems to have run into further complications, so I move that we take this bill by for the day.
All those in favor of SB 481 going by for the day shall say aye. Aye. Those opposed, SB 481 goes by for the day. The House will be at ease. The House will come to order. The clerk will continue with the final conference report for the day.
On page, do you know what page? Page 63 of the calendar, House Bill 405.
The delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Keem.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to move that we accept the conference report and speak to the motion, please.
Delegate Keem, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. This is a bill that would require schools to provide tampons or pads to mostly girls and young students in schools. And the conference report took into consideration some of the concerns that were raised on the House side as far as some of the unfunded mandate issues. So what we did was the Senate version, which passed unanimously today, and we agreed that we would bifurcate the schools so that elementary schools, we would leave it to the discretion of the school authorities to decide where these products should be available, whether it's in the nurse's room or other places. For the middle and high school buildings, that we would require that it be provided in the bathrooms. I want to thank the delegate from Stanton for working with me on this bill, and I hope that we would pass the conference report.
Shall the conference report be agreed to? The clerk shall close the roll.
Ayes 60, nays 33, abstentions 0.
Ayes 60, nays 33, abstention 0. The conference report is agreed to.
On page 64 of the calendar, House Bill 558.
The delegate from Norfolk, Delegate Lindsay.
Madam Speaker, speaking to the conference report.
Delegate Lindsay, you have the floor.
You might recall that when this bill was presented, that this bill in its original format was set up to give micro-business enhancement participation to SWAM and minority-owned small businesses. And when it was presented in the Senate, one of the members there thought it was a good idea to make it in somewhat of a Christmas tree and add a provision that turned this bill into his bill. But through the process of the conference report, we have been able to take that offending provision off. It is now in its original form, so I'd ask the body to accept the conference report.
Shall the conference report be agreed to? The clerk shall close the roll.
Ayes 92, nays 3, abstentions 0.
Ayes 92, nays 3, abstention 0. Conference report is agreed to. Shall
Page 82 of the calendar, Senate Bill 232.
the delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Keem.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And this is the Senate companion to House Bill 405, which we just adopted the conference report for. So I'd move that we accept the conference report.
Shall the conference report be agreed to? The clerk shall close the roll.
Ayes 59, nays 35, abstentions 0.
Ayes 59, nays 35, abstention 0. The conference report is agreed to.
Madam Speaker, that completes the calendar.
Per House Rule 51, the House is returned to morning hour. Does the clerk have any additional announcements or communications?
Madam Speaker, I have a couple of announcements. First, this is a reminder that single House commending and memorial resolutions have to be filed with the clerk's office by 5 p.m. tomorrow. Tomorrow is also the last day to put bills in conference, so we'll likely have a long day. And we were planning a 3 p.m. briefing today on the status of the new General Assembly building. We will find a time for that on Friday and let everyone know. The Speaker has appointed conferees to House Bill 46, Carter, Subramaniam, Wampler. House Bill 46, Carter, Subramaniam, and Wampler. House Bill 201, Ayala, Simon, Runyon. House Bill 201, Ayala, Simon, and Runyon. House Bill 393, Delegates Ward, Simon, Miarez. House Bill 393, Delegates Ward, Simon, and Miarez. House Bill 402, Delegates Keem, Simons, Batten. House Bill 402, Delegates Keem, Simons, Batten. House Bill 540, Delegates Carr, Reed, Cole of Spotsylvania. House Bill 540, Delegates Carr, Reed, Cole of Spotsylvania. House Bill 812, Delegates Ward, Hope, and Wright. House Bill 812, Delegates Ward, Hope, and Wright. House Bill 928, Delegates Coiner, Adams of Richmond City, Aird. House Bill 928, Delegates Coiner, Adams of Richmond City, and Aird. House Bill 974, Delegates Herring, Delaney, Rush. House Bill 974, Delegates Herring, Delaney, and Rush. House Bill 1301, Delegates Hurst, Mullen, and Austin. House Bill 1301, Delegates Hurst, Mullen, and Austin. House Bill 1434, Delegates Jones, Hudson, and Kilgore. House Bill 1434, Delegates Jones, Hudson, and Kilgore. House Bill 1450, Delegates Sullivan, Lopez, Kilgore. House Bill 1450, Delegates Sullivan, Lopez, Kilgore. House Bill 1451, Delegates Sullivan, Lopez, O'Quinn. House Bill 1451, Delegates Sullivan, Lopez, O'Quinn. House Bill 1513, Delegates McQuinn, Tyler, Cox. House Bill 1513, Delegates McQuinn, Tyler, and Cox. House Bill 1552, Delegates Levine, Goditis, Ferris. House Bill 1552, Delegates Levine, Goditis, Ferris. House Bill 1634, Delegates Jones, Mullen, Wilt. House Bill 1634, Delegates Jones, Mullen, and Wilt. House Bill 1725, Delegates Campbell of Smith, Bourne, Simon. House Bill 1725, Delegates Campbell of Smith, Bourne, and Simon. Senate Bill 65, Delegates Lindsay, Simon, and Robinson. Senate Bill 65, Delegates Lindsay, Simon, and Robinson. Senate Bill 329, Delegates Wampler, Rome, and Subramaniam. Senate Bill 329, Delegates Wampler, Rome, and Subramaniam. Senate Bill 990, Delegates Austin, Bulova, and Plum. Senate Bill 990, Delegates Austin, Bulova, and Plum. Senate Bill 1089, Delegates Carter, Scott, and Bell. Senate Bill 1089, Delegates Carter, Scott, and Bell. Madam Speaker, there are a few meeting announcements. The Rare Disease Caucus meeting for this afternoon has been canceled. The Virginia Legislative Black Caucus has been canceled. Meetings for Thursday, March 5th. Capitol Commission Bible Study, 7 a.m., 300B Subcommittee Room. Legislative Sportsmen's Caucus, 7 a.m., 200B Subcommittee Room. The New Americans Caucus has been canceled. Press Conference on Higher Education, 9 a.m., House Briefing Room. Republican Caucus, 9:30 a.m., House Room 2. Democratic Caucus, 10 a.m., House Room 1. That completes my announcements.
The delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Simon.
Madam Speaker, I rise for a quick announcement.
Delegate Simon, you have the floor.
Madam Speaker, members of the House, I just received an email that I wanted to share with everybody here at 6:05 because I think you all might have similar issues. It says, Dear Delegate Simon, I did not send you the email that was sent under my name using everyactionadvocacy.com. And this email, by the way, says I should support SJ 18. She goes on to say, when my husband and I visited you in Richmond for the League's 100th birthday, you clearly explained your position on the constitutional amendment and Delegate Cia Price's bill. I'm going to try and find out who or what organization sent you this email using my physical address and my AOL email address. For the time being, please disregard any further email sent to you via everyactionadvocacy.com using my name. So, Madam Speaker, members of the House, I thought you all should be aware, if you're getting emails that purport to be from constituents, they may not be genuine. I think you should take all of that with a grain of salt. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The delegate from Alexandria, Delegate Herring.
Madam Speaker, I move when the House adjourn today, adjourn to reconvene Thursday, March 5th at 11 a.m.
The delegate from Alexandria, Delegate Herring, moves that when the House adjourn today, it adjourn to reconvene Thursday, March 5th at 11 a.m. As many as favor that motion shall say aye. Aye. Those opposed, the motion is agreed to. Delegate Herring.
Madam Speaker, I move that the House do now adjourn.
The delegate from Alexandria, Delegate Herring, moves that the House do now adjourn. As many as favor that motion shall say aye. Aye. Those opposed, the motion is agreed to. The House stands adjourned until Thursday, March 5th at 11 a.m.